A resume of dialectics after review of the systems theory. 1. Dialectics is a study of logic of development, a study of how things and processes in the universe develop in general. This definition belongs to Vladimir Lenin. 2. Three laws of dialectics, as they were known to Friedrich Engels, are 1. The law of the unity and struggle of the opposites. 2. The development of quantity into quality and vice versa. 3. The law of the negation of negation. 3. We need to make clear that the law of the negation of negation can be stated as that development usually proceeds according to the thesis, antithesis, synthesis triad. Antithesis is a negation of the thesis, and synthesis is a negation of the antithesis. 4. To these three, we should add development from abstract to concrete. A study of any one subject should start with the most simple and abstract category and develop further towards modern practice. Thus, for example, Marx developed the concept of value into capital. 5. According to Mao Zedong, knowledge is an endless loop of 1. Perception, 2. Conception, that is forming of concepts, and 3. Practice based on the concepts. Knowledge is a, quote, fix, test, fail loop, as Elon Musk puts it. As this loop is repeated, it takes us to a higher level of perception, conception, and practice. 6. Dialectics is a summary of the methods of knowledge at each time period. As these are continuously updated, developed, invented, dialectics needs to be continuously updated and developed. Addendum 1. Previously we said that dialectics is a study of development. Now we say that it is a study of the methods of knowledge. This signifies that methods of knowledge follow the pattern of development of the universe. Addendum 2. As was well known to Hegel, the truth is not a final result, but a continuous process. This is against all dogma, against all finality of a result. However, Marxists, if they study dialectics at all, usually cling to the texts of Engels, Lenin, Mao, and go no further, thus turning this into a dogma. As the first step, we need to organize a study of modern dialectics, not of the old Marxist texts. This means that first we need to digest ourselves modern developments of science, identifying the general laws of development, and then work on spreading this knowledge to others. This implies what should be done in terms of organization. For example, today I created a channel, Modern Dialectics, in which I post all my knowledge on modern dialectics and which people can add comment to which people can add their comments. Karl Korsch, who lived from 1886 to 1961, writes in 1923, not only the dialectical method of Marx and Engels, But also Hegel's dialectic did not meet with much understanding in the leading theoretical circles of the Comintern, and still less among the theoreticians of the German Communist Party. And he continues, Vladimir Ilyich Lenin declared 2 years ago in his article Under the Banner of Marxism, published in issue number 21 of the journal Communist International, that one of the two great tasks which communism must deal with in the field of ideology is to organize a systematic study of Hegel's dialectic from a materialist standpoint. End of quote. That means we should raise ourselves above the theoretical level of the Communist International. 7. Modern physics informs us that the universe is built on a symmetrical principle, where every one thing comes with its opposite, as for example particles and antiparticles. Things and processes always come in dialectical pairs. These pairs are opposites within the same genus, as for example man and woman are opposite manifestations of a human being, and physical and mental activity are opposite manifestations of a conscious life. Hence, a study of one thing leads to the study of its dialectical opposite. To grasp one thing alone is a one-sided, false approach. Addendum. One interpretation of beauty is that it is a perception of unity in difference. Thus, when opposite aspects of the universe are grasped together as forming a single whole, this is beautiful. Here, beauty is a synonym for the truth, the good, the correct way. 8. From history of logic, we learn that form and content always come together. They are a dialectical pair. To separate one from the other is a mistake made by formal logic. Thus, form becomes meaningless, empty of meaning, lacking development. 9. The law of identity, formulated by Aristotle, A equals A, does not take into account the flow of time and hence development. A stops being equal to A once motion is introduced. In dialectical logic, everything is and is not to a certain degree. That means A is equals to A and A is not equals to A. 10. The law of the excluded middle, either A equals to B or A is not equals to B, does not take into account that there are many intermediate positions between A equals to B or A is not equal to B. One example of it would be the many sexual orientations of people in modern times. Between the opposites of men and women, there are many intermediate positions. 11. Dialectical contradiction or dialectical pairs are the very heart of the universe. If we don't see this contradiction, the view of the universe is one-sided, primitive, and false, as are many Hollywood movies. Each thing or process comes with the opposite and contains within itself the opposite to different degrees, as in the yin-yang symbol. That is why paradoxes are often true. A true view of the universe contains a paradox. Or, as one physicist said, for a physical theory to be true, it must be crazy. 12. A development of physics in 20th century has been quantum theory. According to quantum logic, see Werner Heisenberg, Physics and Philosophy, 1956. A thing is and is not, and some probability is assigned to the first statement and another to the second, and together they form a unity. 1. 3. In electrical engineering, in the second half of the 20th century, fuzzy logic was invented. Fuzzy logic is precise logic of imprecision, according to its inventor, Lotfi Zadeh, 1921-2017. According to this logic, nothing is precise or pure or one-dimensional. There is always the other, the opposite, contained in any one thing or process. Fuzzy logic is used in processes where we need to implement a gradual change from one state to another. For example, from a fast motion to a stop. 14. In 20th century, we have seen the emergence of systems theory, which attempts to grasp general laws that govern different systems. Proponents of the systems theory notice that different systems behave in similar ways, which leads to a hypothesis that there must be some regularity governing vastly different systems. As Saint-Simon, 1760 to 1825, one of the forerunners of the systems theory, put it, the whole of our knowledge should be structured with understanding that one single law or regularity determines the many several laws which govern the development of things. 15. Many exponents of the systems theory, such as Alexander Bogdanov, 1873 to 1928, approach the search for regularity in systems in an external way, imposing categories from without, not actually diving into the inner life of the many different systems. To properly understand a phenomena, we need to compare it to other similar phenomena. This comparative approach may allow us to formulate the general laws for these types of systems. 16. According to Ilya Prigozhin, 1917-2003, a Nobel Prize chemist and a systems theory exponent, order emerges out of chaos through self-organization of nature. Self-organization is opposed to the tendency of nature towards chaos. The two tendencies should be grasped together. However, it seems that in the long run, the tendency towards self-organization is predominant. One example of that may be an experiment in spontaneous synchronization. 17. Through a quantitative development, some open systems are capable of making a qualitative jump into more complex systems, exhibiting a greater amount of organization. This is what makes life and consciousness possible. 18. There is an arrow of time in development. That means that most processes develop in one direction and not in the opposite. For example, see David Christian talking about breaking an egg in the history of our world in 18 minutes.
Yes, it is a scrambled egg. But as you look at it, I hope you'll begin to feel just slightly uneasy. Because you may notice that what's actually happening is that the egg is unscrambling itself. And you'll now see the yolk and the white have separated, and now they're going to be poured back into the egg. And we all know in our heart of hearts that this is not the way the universe works. A scrambled egg is mush, tasty mush, but it's mush. An egg is a beautiful, sophisticated thing that can create even more sophisticated things, such as chickens. And we know in our heart of hearts that the universe does not travel from mush to complexity. In fact, this gut instinct is reflected in one of the most fundamental laws of physics, the second law of thermodynamics, or the law of entropy. What that says basically is that the general tendency of the universe is to move from order and structure to lack of order, lack of structure, in fact to mush. And that's why that video feels a bit strange. And yet...
19. Development in the direction of the arrow of time may proceed in evolutionary and revolutionary manner. These two form a dialectical pair of development. 20. Thomas Kuhn, who lived from 1922 to 1996, noticed similarities between scientific and social revolutions. First, there is a state of normality when scientists are busy with mopping up activity, developing details of a standard theory. Second, some anomaly starts to appear, and the standard theory is trying to accommodate this anomaly. Third, development leads to the point of crisis, if we are to use the language of Thomas Kuhn, or bifurcation point, if we are to use the language of Prigozhin. From here, development can proceed in several possible directions. 21. A fundamental property of nature is symmetry. See point number 7, where we discuss physics. At equilibrium points, we observe symmetry of parts with respect to each other. At points far from equilibrium, for example at bifurcation points, in the period of crisis, we observe that symmetries break down. So nature as a whole is symmetrical, but in moments of crisis and revolutions, this rule is not observed. To resolve a crisis, a new paradigm should appear. Its first appearance is unremarkable, as for example, when Christianity was just starting. This new seed develops to maturity, proves its right to exist in struggle with other tendencies or theories. 23. The new paradigm is established as a new standard theory if we are discussing scientific revolutions, or a new set of social relations is established if we are talking about the social revolution. 24. It is possible that the overall development is accelerating in pace. For example, on a cosmological scale, we see accelerating expansion of the universe. 24.1. After rewatching with my son the movie Mind Walk 1990, which is a popular presentation of the systems theory, I need to add that the theory states correctly that everything is related to everything. Hence, it is not really possible to understand thoroughly any one detail without going out and attempting to grasp the whole. 25. In the last quarter of 20th century, we have seen development of the concept of fractals. This phenomena was first noticed in ancient Greece. A philosopher by the name of Hermes Trismegistus was known for saying, "Know then the greatest secret of the universe. As above, so below. As within, so without." However, the concept of fractal was first formulated mathematically by, by Benoit Mandelbrot, 1924 to 2010. A fractal is a figure which is self-similar in its parts. That is, a small part is a copy of the whole, and the whole contains many parts which resemble it in structure. 26. The universe is structured in a fractal manner. For example, there is a similarity between objects on astronomical and atomic scales. Robert Aldershaw, 1946 to 2021, called this cosmological self-similarity. For example, in the first image, you can see electrons' probability density distribution for an atom. In the second image, you can see the star Eta Carina ejecting a pair of huge lobes that form a propeller shape. As you can see, this shape is similar to what we have seen about electron distribution in a certain atom. 27. Fractal nature of the universe as a type of symmetry between different levels of scales of the cosmos and systems within it makes the Hegelian laws of dialectics possible, as different levels of matter and energy exhibit similar laws. One may say that nature is a stingy designer, repeating similar patterns in different types of systems. Hence, fractal nature of the universe should be seen as a higher generalization than the classical three laws of dialectics. 28. Fractal property of nature makes harmony possible. This can be a simple harmony on a keyboard, as when the same note is repeated in different octaves, as well as harmony between different processes in the universe, as for example between certain pieces of music and art. 29. One of the most important fractals in the universe is the vortex, or the spiral movement. It is exhibited in many important processes in the universe, such as spiral galaxies, the movement of clouds in a tornado, and in development of human knowledge. 30. Hegel teaches us that knowledge comes in three basic shapes: 1. Religion, 2. Art, 3. Science. Philosophy is something that ought to be science, but is not. However, modernity has passed behind the stage of science, that is, the study of special subjects. Marxism is not a science, but a post-science, as it unifies a number of special sciences. However, it is not the only post-science, as systems theory, big history, and some other modern developments attempt to be something bigger than any one special science. 31. In the present era, knowledge in its various forms becomes the dominant productive force. Hence, our main task is examination and unification of knowledge. In order to accomplish this task, I'm working on something that I call a map of knowledge. In this map of knowledge, I accept all forms of knowledge from all time periods. For example, here you can see something called human society, and then time periods. And in the time periods, I break it up, for example, by the centuries. For example, here is the 17th century. Here is the 18th century. Here is 19th century. And in each time period, I break it up into subheadings, such as music of the 19th century, such as Brahms, Strauss, Saint-Saëns. And in addition to music, we have sculpture, art, science, history, philosophy, social, political thinkers and makers, poetry, etc. Now, if something doesn't fit into a time period, I put it into a separate topic or under a heading of different forms of knowledge. For example, under topics we have the universe, contact with other civilizations, animals, and under forms of knowledge we have quite a lot here. Again, this is a work in progress. But for example, if we talk about we talk about something that I call general theory of revolution, then I break it up into dialectics, history of revolutions, and global revolution in the current time period. So this is about my map of knowledge. This technique allows me to keep track of knowledge in all fields without losing grasp of the whole. You may say it is a new method of knowledge, a new method of grasping ideas. 33. As we obtain knowledge in various fields, these need to contribute to modern dialectics. As mathematics is able to cast light on the future development in physics, So modern dialectics can contribute to the development of knowledge in general. It is a type of science fiction for modern times. A science fiction of 19th and 20th centuries was able to foresee development of technology and society many years ahead. 34. Actual knowledge implies knowledge through action. Knowledge is properly obtained through the process of making, testing, and fixing the object of knowledge. The mistake which teachers often make is when they talk about something without allowing the students to make anything, experiment with the object of knowledge. The main task of a teacher is to provide students with the actual experience of the object of knowledge.
Do it. Yeah. Well, I didn't get a foot. Stop to me. Hit her. Miss Brown. Right. No, Miss Brown, take a picture of me. That's what the robot said. Oh, it's up there.
Make it move.
He's saying hi.
Sketch of the laws of dialectics as I understand them after review of the system's theory. 1. The universe is structured in a fractal way. That means the whole is reproduced in its parts, and the parts exhibit that which is in the whole. 2. Everything is related to everything. 3. Development proceeds from abstract to concrete, and it also proceeds from concrete to abstract. 4. Knowledge develops in an infinite loop consisting of perception, conception, and practice, climbing higher and higher. Hence, the loop is really a kind of a spiral, which is one of the most important fractals in the universe. 5. Quantum logic, fuzzy logic, and dialectics is really the same thing, viewed only from different perspectives of physics, engineering, and philosophy. They all accept that A and not A exist at the same time in different proportions, together forming a unity. 6. A dialectical contradictory pair is at the very heart of the universe. It makes paradoxes possible, and it is responsible for all development. 7. Dialectical pairs always come conjoined. To separate one from the other is incorrect. 8. Symmetry is a fundamental property of nature. That which is symmetrical is beautiful. However, symmetry breaks down at bifurcation points or points of crisis and revolutions. Hence, nature is both symmetrical and asymmetrical. These two form a dialectical pair. 9. In the universe, we observe the tendencies towards self-organization and self-destruction. where the first tends to predominate. 10. Development may proceed as evolution or revolution. These two are a dialectical pair. 11. A cycle of development starts in a state of normality. Then an anomaly appears, which we try to resolve within the old framework. Thus, this turns out to be impossible. Thus, a crisis develops. At the same time, a new worldview appears which aims to resolve the crisis in a new, crazy way. In struggle with competition, it proves or doesn't prove its right to exist. If the new worldview is able to resolve the crisis, it becomes the new standard, the new state of normality, and the cycle of development repeats all over again. That is the end of the essay on dialectics after reviewing my study of the systems theory. You can write your comments, correct my mistakes, etc. Using this email, Gennady22 at proton.me. Thank you for listening.